Well, good morning. I thought it would be interesting to bring you along today on a commercial shoot, which hopefully will illustrate that business portraits needn't just be headshots. So with me today I've got John Drysdale, who has commissioned this shoot. John, would you mind just briefly explaining who you are, what you do and what you're hoping for?
Yeah, sure. I'm John Drysdale, so I'm an executive and business coach. Why I've asked Alistair along today is I'm in the process of building a new website which reflects me as an individual as opposed to my other company, which is No Guru. So I'm going to have a personalised website around the coaching that I deliver, and we're here at a great location. Alistair's brought me to a great location this morning. The weather is absolutely amazing, so we're expecting big things from this this photo shoot. It looks really spectacular this morning.
And what's your vision, John, for what the images should look like?
Yeah, it's funny because you and I had a chat this morning. We both had kind of similar ideas. So I'd thought about this beach. This is West Sands in St Andrews, and I thought about something that was fairly natural looking. So I didn't want like just a corporate headshot of me as the coach. I wanted it to reflect space. So I had in my head that I would be walking along the beach with the sea behind me. And it's such a beautiful vista today. It's going to perfectly capture, I think, what I had in my head. So I wanted something kind of natural looking, something that reflected space, maybe something that reflected people's vision and lifestyle, which I think coaching helps people achieve. So it's all kind of come together. Hopefully, it's come together in a kind of creative vision.
Brilliant, thank you. Which is a great brief from my point of view because it allows a degree of creativity, a degree of scope. I suggested to John, it was a last minute thought this morning, to say, if you've got a long coat, can you bring that with you? And bizarrely, he'd had the same thought of bringing that very coat. So you'll see later why I wanted to suggest that. In terms of the technicalities of today, we're determined in terms of the time. It's just after 8 in the morning. Low tide is just after 8:30. That's a determining factor of why we're here at this time, because with low tide we've got a huge sandscape, and that goes with a huge sky, which should capture John's idea of space and being in a space. And I guess it's a space that offers all sorts of possibilities, all sorts of creative possibilities. So that's what we want to try and capture. We want to make it kind of visually interesting as well. A key thing for me is the direction of the light. I've only got the sun to work with, and I don't have any assistants who can move it anywhere different. We've got to be directed by where the sun itself is. Ideally, I need that about 45 degrees to where John's going to be walking. I don't want his face in shadow, so I can't shoot against the sun. Because this is in the morning, the sun's relatively low, so that gives a nicer quality to the light as well, which is almost perfect. Because if it was too high, we'd lose some of that quality. And the reason we get the quality, the sun's lower in the sky, it's coming through more atmosphere, softens the light a bit, and that should give us nice colours to work with too. So I think with that, we'll head off and get this done.
Let's do it.
Let's go. Well, here we are on the West Sands at St Andrews. We just finished the shoot. This was the location of the film Chariots of Fire, if you remember the beach scene and the runners heading along the beach towards St Andrews in the background. It's been fun doing that. You enjoyed that, John?
Yeah. Right. A lot of work actually, but yeah.
A lot of work.
Yeah.
It's hard work being a model.
Or a photographer.
Even a photographer. Well, it was a great fun shoot with John, but that's only partly delivering on the client's brief. The rest of the work has to happen in editing, so let's jump into Lightroom. Well, here we are in Lightroom. That's all of the photos from the shoot now imported, and there's a fair number of them, 178 in fact. So the first thing that I do, really, let's just take the first one and we'll go to the develop module. The first thing I do is go to lens corrections, and we'll enable lens corrections and remove chromatic aberration. And then I'm just going to zoom into this a little bit. We will go to basic and we'll just check the white balance. Let's choose a kind of grey neutral. There we are, grey neutral there. Okay, and we'll zoom out. And now what I'll do is, if I press and hold Shift, go over to the end, and we'll synchronize those changes. So it's going to be lens corrections, white balance, and we've always got to have process version ticked, and we'll synchronize those. Good. So what I'm going to do now, and I will skip past this because there's no point in you watching this process, is I'm going to go through all these photos and simply allocate a score to them. I'll grade them kind of maximum of 5 for ones that I would definitely use, coming down to 4 and maybe 3 for others. So anything that gets 3 and above will end up being worked on. So we'll come back when that job is done. Okay, well that's me now been through the full set and graded them. I went for gradings between 3 stars and 5 stars. So applying the filter to identify those that are starred. 3 stars was returning about 107 shots, so I've opted to go for only 4 and 5 star shots, and that still gives me 93. So it's 93 out of a full set of 178 to now work my way through. Obviously doing this for a client, there's a fair bit of work involved, but what I'll do is I'll take you through a couple of the different shots here just to look at what I envisage doing with those. So the remit, if you remember, was to have a series of shots that convey a sense of space, and John was talking about envisaging walking to the camera on the wide expanse of the beach. And I've tried to get a selection of shots that have a lot of beach in them, and some that have a lot of sky in them, and some that have a reasonable balance of the two. We also want to be delivering a set that has a combination of landscape, so that John's in the shot with the wide open space, but also some portrait shots were asked for as well. So those are a little bit more the head and shoulder shots. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to choose this one, number 47 here, and we'll pop into develop for that one. And I just want to take you through some of the thought processes on how I'm going to go about editing. So let's start with this one. This is showing a reasonable expanse of beach. It's got a sense of space. John's nicely framed in the shot. We wanted to have him more to one side, and he's kind of looking away at something in the distance, which I think is good.
So in terms of editing this, I'm going to begin with the transform button here, and what I want to do is to level this. I'm very fussy about straight horizons. That looks like it's overcooked it slightly, so I'm just going to rotate that back a little bit. There, yeah, I think I'm happy with that. So that's good. I'm happy at that. In terms of the exposure, if we look up here on the histogram, this is where we would see clipping. So there's some clipping in the black. So I'm going to just bring that up until it just there stops clipping. The white, we can actually take that up a bit and see, once we get to the clipping point, what that does. That's getting a bit too bright. Let's take it all the way till it starts to cut in. No, far too much. It's clipping there. Let's bring it back. I think I'll bring it back to about there and bring the highlights down just slightly. And we'll just lighten the shadows a little bit so that we get some more detail coming into the coat, which I quite like there. So that's not too bad. I think I'll just take the exposure down just a touch. Yeah, that's pretty reasonable, and we've got a good looking histogram at that. The next thing I want to look for is to see, particularly in the sky, if there are any spots that have been on the sensor. You get little dust spots on the sensor. This looks like one just in there. So I'm going to take the healing tool, just center over that. Yes, it was, and that's gone. So we can close that. The other thing actually you can do with this when it's on is click visualize spots, and that highlights them really nicely. There is nothing now showing up in there, so we'll take that off, close that. So I'm happy with that, happy that that's a clean shot. Now, I would quite like this to have a kind of a more dramatic, cinematic type feel to it. So we're going to do just a little bit of tinkering. I'm maybe going to adjust the tone curve here just slightly. Pull that back just a touch. And if we go the other way, no, it's going a bit bright, so let's bring it back just a touch. I think that'll do there. What about the darker tones? Take them up just a little bit there. Bring that, oh yeah, just slightly. There we go. Don't want to be doing too much with this. Don't want to be too heavy with it. Okay, let's have a look at the colours. So we've got hue, saturation and luminance here. The hue on the, I'm interested in the sky here on the blue. John was imagining a kind of a more of a cloudy sky, and we got ourselves a very bright blue sky day. So I'm just going to take that up just a touch, and the same with the aqua. And in terms of the sand, I think I might just take the orange back a wee bit, take the red back a wee bit. Let's come to the saturation now. Boost the blue slightly. There we go. Yeah, I think I'm happy with that. Let's come to the colour grading and see what we can do here. Let's take the highlights. So this will affect, as it says, the highlights in the shot. So let's bring this a little bit into the blue there. The mid-tones, I think I'd like to warm this up a little bit. So let's just come into there just a little bit, and the shadows just a bit into there. That's maybe a bit too purpley now. We'll change the highlights a little bit. Yeah, I think we'll go just into there a little bit. Okay. Alright, let's look at before and after. Okay, so we've there's the shot as it came out the camera. There's what we've gone to. So a little bit more colouring in that. That's quite nice. Quite like that. Of course, it might be that John doesn't, but there we go. This is just really to give you an idea of how we can change things around a bit. And let's come to the detail, do the sharpening. There's already an amount of sharpening been applied there, but I'm going to come to masking here now. I press and hold the Alt key, and if I pull that up, the white is what gets sharpened. We'll take the radius down and we'll pop this up to about 45. Now if we just punch in here, we can see there's a little bit of grain come into this, or noise as people tend to say in this digital age. And now with Lightroom we've got this denoise function, so we're going to try that. Let's just give that a click. It does its thing, comes up with a preview. There we go. We'll just drag this around and there we are. It's taken quite a bit of the noise out. If we push it up, 50% is as standard as. We're losing just a little bit of detail around John's ear there, so we might have to. I'll take that down just a wee bit. Maybe go to about 40, and we'll say enhance on that. That now does its thing. Well, there we are. It does take a while for that noise reduction filter to do its work. Remember, it's under the detail panel and denoise. I think from my point of view, doing commercial work, that just takes too long, and in future I'll be working just doing it the traditional way, the manual noise reduction, which is still there, so we can control the things there manually. That will be just quicker. So we've got one done. That kind of fits the brief of a landscape shot. I wanted to do one as well that is a bit more kind of panoramic, and from that point of view, number 50 looks pretty good. So if I choose 48, press and hold Control and 50, I'll have the two highlighted, and I can sync the changes across, and I'll just do check all, and then we'll take off. I always take off things that are local corrections. So transform, I'll leave that on. Tone curve, HSL color, basic effects, healing, I'll take that off because that was done locally. Masking will take off. Effects, we didn't have any of those applied, but we did have color grading, we've got detail, etc. So we'll synchronize those. So then we've got number 50, that's now consistent coloring to 48. But what I want to do now with this one, to give it that kind of widescreen feel, is we'll crop it. And in my presets, I've got a 16:9, which is standard widescreen. Maybe just move that up slightly, or we'll bring it down, give it more sky. I think we'll give it more sky. Yeah. Apply that. So that gives us a widescreen option and has retained the same colouring. We'll also want to have a look at one of the portrait shots, so I'm going to go with this one. again, we have rather an off horizon, so let's go to transform. Sometimes if you press level it does a decent job, but not on this occasion, so we'll come to rotate and we'll just move that until I feel the horizon is level. That's about right there, so that's good. I'm happy with that. We'll come up to the exposure now, and we can see at this end of the histogram the black is clipping in, so I'm just going to lighten the blacks until that clipping stops. There we go, there's the point there. The whites are quite bright round here, so I don't want to push the whites any further, but what I'm going to do is take the highlights down to about there. We'll lighten the shadows a bit, but that's beginning to look a little bit too flat, so let's put in some vibrance. And I'm going to come to the tone curve now. We'll take the mid-tones down just a smidgen. Same with the, not too far, that's fine. And highlight, higher tones we can take up just slightly. Let's look at before and after. There we are, that's a little punchier. I'm quite happy with that. So the next thing I want to do, let's close that down, is see if we've got any dust marks that we need to get rid of. So we'll go to the healing brush tool, click on visualize spots. There's nothing showing in the sky there at all, and anything showing up on the beach or on John look absolutely fine. So I am happy with that. We can close that off, and I think actually even compositionally that is fine. Well, I hope that's been interesting, having a look behind the scenes on a commercial shoot, doing a different kind of business portrait, something that's a little bit out of the ordinary, and something where the client had a very clear vision about what he wanted to achieve. So again, as ever, if you like this, please remember, give it a thumbs up, like, subscribe, and turn on notifications, all of which helps the channel, and I'm really grateful for doing that. I'll leave you with one or two of the shots that we ended up with sending on to John, the client. And in the meantime, take care, and I'll see you in the next one.